Hello and welcome to Channels Book Club. I'm Olakunle Kasumo. The Channels Book Club Prize for Literature Season 5 is on. If you are a senior secondary school student in Nigeria, this is your play. All you need to do is to get this interesting book titled Daughters Who Walk This Path. Read it and write an essay to review it. The key source of information for all things related to the competition is www.channelstv.com/book-club. You can also check up on our social media platforms displayed on your screen for updates. This year, the winners will be sponsored to New York City. New York is an amazing place, and there are so many things to learn about it. I shared 2 last week, but here are 2 more. New York City has been described as the cultural, financial, and media capital of the world. Hardly can you find a city with more influence on commerce, entertainment, research, technology, education, politics, art, fashion, and sports. Another interesting thing about New York is it's the headquarters of the United Nations. So when it comes to the home of international diplomacy, it's basically New York City. So Nigerian students, get ready and visit the mentioned webpage for information. We have recently been focusing on the issue of piracy on this show. In line with that, our guest today is a young, talented Nigerian lady who has given so much of herself to developing useful literary products for Nigerian children. But unfortunately, she has been badly hurt by piracy. Her name is Ariyo Osoko, and she is the author of a number of children's books, including A Taste of Royal Blood and Larinka in Lagos. Aria joins us to share her experiences as an author whose work has been sabotaged by the enemies of creative productivity. That's what they call pirates. Please stay with us. Aria, it's great to have you on Channels Book Club.
Thank you very much, Kule. It's good to see you again.
Nice to see you again.
Yeah.
You've been writing for a while. It's your passion. It's something you love doing.
Yes.
Writing for children, for young people. I think that's a great thing because we don't have too many Nigerians who are providing local content for our young people. Majority of the books young people read in Nigeria tend to be imported. Or is that a wrong observation?
No, you're actually right.
Right.
Absolutely right.
Okay. Yeah. So now, a few years ago, you told me about a project you're working on, and I was absolutely excited about it. A book that will help young people to understand the story, the history of Lagos State.
Sure.
Tell me about that.
Okay. The book is titled Larinka in Lagos.
Which I have here. Larinka
Sure.
in Lagos. Okay.
Yes. It's an historical book about monuments in Lagos. I traced the history of Lagos from 16th century to this present day, and I touched on the National Museum, the National Art Theatre,
All those historical monuments.
Exactly. And I also spoke about the Obas from 16th century,
Whoa.
how Lagos is linked with Benin. I mean, Benin Kingdom.
The link between Lagos,
Yes.
Lagos and Benin Kingdom.
Yes, and how the Portuguese were the ones who actually gave us the name Lagos, because
Lagos.
Lagos, thank you. And Ikorame, where Kuramo was brought out, and all that. I also spoke about Badagry and all that. There's a whole lot of information in the book.
It took you 3 years.
3 years to
the research, the writing, the editing,
put together and all that.
and all that. When you were, I kept following you as you were doing that product. Kept talking,
Yeah,
and I was
sure.
excited that you were doing that kind of thing, and then to put it in the form that is for children,
Yes.
for them to understand.
Yes.
It's incredible because
you.
children and adults learn differently, don't they?
Sure, definitely.
So you have to use illustrations, and you had to.
And the rat.
Yes, you have to find the right language.
The tour guide.
The rat is a tour guide in the book. Interesting.
Thank you.
Now, I was saddened when your book event. Before then, I was happy
Okay.
when your book came out,
Okay.
and Lagos state government adopted it
Yes.
as one of
They are literary text.
compulsory reads, right?
Yes.
In school.
Yes.
And you were really excited about that.
Apparently, I was blown away.
But the process for that to happen was also very tedious.
Yes.
Tell me a bit about that.
You have to submit about 5 copies to the Ministry of Education. That's the Curriculum Services Department. You have to pay your tax. You have to pay the review fees. At the moment, it's actually ongoing. So you have to pay your review fees, which happens to fall between 35,000 and about maybe 80,000. I'm really not sure. I haven't, but my own court is 35K. So then you have to follow up and then see and monitor the review exercise, which usually comes up between second term and third term and all that. So it's a really, you have to obtain your ISBN number, you have to go get, which you will definitely get from National Library of Nigeria and all that. So it's a whole lot of merry-go-round.
That in itself is a story. Because I remember you told me about
how books are enlisted.
How books are enlisted in our schools.
Yeah.
That's a story in itself.
Apparently.
It's
a whole lot of work. It's a whole lot of work because you have to do a lot of moving around. You have to do a lot of payment. You have to pay your tax. You have to, it entails a lot of things.
And it's not as straightforward as it should be.
Yeah. You have to go here, then go there, then go here, do your tax clearance, obtain your ISBN number, go to the review section. At this moment now, they've extended it to the commissioner's office. We have to submit a letter at the commissioner's office where then come back to the Curriculum Services Department where we're required to submit another 5 copies of the books. You have to register online. It's dynamic. It keeps changing.
So eventually, your book was picked. Lagos State government put it on its list.
Yes.
Your book potentially could have been sold to 350,000 thereabouts. We don't know the exact figure, but they're about 350,000 children for 4 consecutive years.
Sure.
Right. Now, at the time your book came out, a copy of the book was how much? 250 naira.
250 naira.
Okay, my maths is not very good, but let's say 250 naira. Let's say you do that for 100,000 students. That's how much now. That's you and I won't be talking here. I'll be like a small boy because you'll be, like really rich.
Yeah. So that's audio money now, like they say.
Yes. So do that to multiply that by 350,000.
Yeah.
That potentially could have
4 years.
For 4 years.
Have to multiply it by 4.
4 years.
Yeah.
That potentially could have set you up for life.
Apparently, sure.
And that's not an exaggeration.
Sure.
Right? Yeah. Now, that is the potential of intellectual property. In more developed countries, that's how people get rich.
Of course.
I mean, you release an album, it's a hit.
And it goes boom.
You get your money. You release a book, it's a hit. You get your money. You release something intellectual, you patent something, it's a hit. You get your money, because there is respect for intellectual property rights.
Absolutely.
And there are systems and structures that protect people who create those things. So the creative industry is
protected.
It's a boom all over the world.
Sure.
But that was not what happened to you.
Far from it.
Pirates.
Hijacked.
Tell me about that.
Okay. Now, this is a very, very devastating story because I was really, really heartbroken. And the consequences of that is that I suffered for about 2 years. I had a writer's block because that's the effect. I've not been able to write for like 2 years.
Wow.
And I'm not going to lie to you because that was how the issue took its toll on me. And when the book was released, and it was because on the Lagos State list of books, it's number 2. So that's the attraction for the pirates.
Number 2, wow.
Yeah, it's number 2 because it talks about the history of Lagos. So once your book is on the list, it's like, it just draws the attention of the pirates.
Because they know there are thousands of buyers.
Yeah, this is a ready-made soup.
Market, yeah.
Yeah, and they're just willing to just take it away from you and do whatever it is they like with it. And eventually, when the book got out there, I was trying to protect it.
Got out there, somebody took a copy of your book and
Just
went
one
to
copy.
just went to reproduce it.
Mass reproduce.
Illegally.
Yes.
Where? China, wherever, we don't know.
I really don't know, because if you even see the pirated copies, they are actually very, very
Which
ugly.
I have here.
I had to go and withdraw them from the police station because they were initially submitted.
This is the original. This is the original.
Yeah,
the
that's
original
the original copy
of
Yes.
the book. Okay, so this is the original.
Yes.
Now, this is the pirated copy.
Yes.
This
Those
is
two,
is a pirated copy.
Yeah. This.
And
If
this.
Yes.
Okay.
If you even look at my image inside, my picture, I beg your pardon. Look at it.
Oh, yeah.
Purely photocopy.
Okay, so we've got the original. We've got the original. Okay, and then the inside it is your photo. Okay, inside the original is your picture.
Yeah. About the author.
About the author.
And you can see the difference.
Yeah, and then okay. So your own copy was selling for 250 naira.
Yeah.
How much were the pirates selling their own?
They were selling at 200.
They brought it down to 200. So of course, if you see 250 naira here and you see
200
naira here, it's a free market. You go for the cheaper one.
The law.
And there really is not much differences, really. We can't really blame those who are buying because they don't know the difference.
It's not their fault.
It's not obvious. They just see the book. They don't know whether this is fake or this is original, so they just pay money for the cheaper one.
The economy is tough enough, so you just want something cheaper.
Okay, so once they started selling at 200 naira,
yes,
it killed your own market.
Automatically.
Go on with that story.
Okay, I started receiving calls that we saw your book in Marina, we saw your book in Yaba, we saw your book in Songwater, we saw your book in Ikotu, and it just went all over the place. It was like a cancer. And initially I was telling myself I wasn't going to do anything about it. As a matter of fact, I told myself I would start living a lie. I'll tell myself I never wrote a book titled Larinka. And so I tried pushing it to the back of my mind, but the calls kept coming. The calls kept, it just kept coming. Like, the more I avoided it, the more the reality stared me in the face. And, at a point, sometimes I cried to sleep. Sometimes I was just so heartbroken. I feel that it's the government's duty to protect publishers and authors, because if there were stiff penalties for the people who are involved in these crimes, because really it's a crime. For me, book piracy is...
Of course,
it's just theft. It's as simple as that. What's piracy? It's theft. And so when somebody picks your work and starts the production, the distribution, and without your knowledge, and the person is cashing in on your own labor. I invested 3 years of my life on this project. I could have been doing something else. I could have been working on some. If I had a paid employment, of course, I would get paid, and I know that those 3 years I was able to achieve something monumental. I'm not going to keep on investing my time, investing my resources, investing my talent in on a project, and then suddenly it's hijacked away from me. At the moment, I'm even indebted. I'm indebted.
Ariyo, this is really sad. But let's take a break on this. We have to go on with this. We'll be right back.
It's fine.
Right back.
It's fine.
A potential market of 350,000 children could buy your book because the Lagos state government has made it compulsory.
Sure.
But in reality, how many have you sold? In reality, how many have you sold? I sold X number of copies to students.
Okay.
In total.
In total.
This has been on for the past how many? 4
years.
For the past 4 years now.
Yes.
Is it up to 4 years?
Yeah.
Wow.
4 years. 3 years.
3 years now.
Pardon, 2017 to 2020.
2020.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's going to be your 4-year agreement with the government will end in 2021.
No, 2020.
2020.
It has ended already.
So it's almost 4 years now.
Yes.
So in the 4 years, how many have you sold?
I don't want to give you the summation.
It might be so that
No, I would rather break it down.
Okay.
First year, I
Yeah.
sold about 6,000.
Yeah.
Second year, I sold about 4,000.
Okay.
And then the subsequent year, maybe after I started supplying the pirates at an extremely discounted rate.
you started supplying the pirates.
Yes.
You were forced.
Yes.
Meanwhile, the pirates have been selling a lot, right?
Of course.
Because there are 350,000 children.
Of course. Even they can't meet the
They
demand.
can't meet up the demands.
Yeah.
So they make copies of your book, sell hundreds of thousands of copies, put the money in your account, and in their accounts.
Of course.
And then you get to a point where it is so extreme that you are now forced to start supplying to them.
Yes, because if I do not engage them, the books will still sell, whether I want to sell or not.
This is really pathetic, you know.
Yeah.
This is really sad.
It's heartbreaking.
No. Now, the
Exactly.
pirates started selling at 200 naira. You started selling yours at 250.
250, yeah.
They went to 200.
Yeah.
You brought down your price.
Yeah.
Then they dropped their prices again, down to 100 naira.
Yeah.
So, a copy of your book now is 100 naira out there in the market.
No,
How much is it?
I supply to the market at 100,
Okay.
and then they sell at 120
One-
or 150.
150.
Depends. Yeah, it depends.
So, but is that at par with what the pirates sell now?
Exactly.
It's not
No, they're not even pirating it again because I've crashed,
You've crashed
the
down
price.
the price.
Yeah, I've crashed the price. And so the moment I crashed the price, they lost interest. But
Okay.
that came at a cost.
Because you're now, in a way, you're losing money, really.
Of course.
Because
I'm just selling.
It's just
I'm just
it's
selling.
just too cheap.
Of course. As it is, because presently we need to submit another book for the next 3 years. And I just published another one titled Waterloo. It's about cybercrime and all that. But before I could bring myself to that point where I could take up my pen again, it took me 2 years. And even after I did that, I've been skeptical about the book.
You're not very enthusiastic.
I am not. I'm not. To be candid, I'm not. I'm skeptical. I'm afraid. I'm just going to see what's going to happen again. And so nobody wants to continue to invest in something that would not pay off. You don't want to put in your time. You don't want to put in your money. You don't want to put in your resources. You don't want to put in your skills, everything that you have on a project, and then it goes to someone else. Nobody wants to do that.
Aria, you sound like you are really tired of Nigeria. You sound this has worn you out totally. You sound like it has worn you out.
Yeah, seriously. Psychologically, I've been dealing with it for a long time, and as a matter of fact, for a year, you and I didn't talk because I was too depressed about it, and I could not come to terms with the reality on ground because I don't know.
What's the? I really feel for you, Ariyo. What's the punishment for pirates? Those who pirate intellectual properties like this, books like this, and all that.
Well,
What's the legal punishment for them?
well, it's according to the Copyright Act of 2004. It says that for every single copy that a pirate is found with, he is mandated to pay 100 naira on each copy, and then the jail time is 6 months.
What?
6 months.
Just 6 months.
6 months, but it depends on the discretion of the court,
Okay.
and it also depends on the volume that we are talking about. But I feel that a way that the government can, one of the ways the government can protect authors, particularly protect their sanity, let me just put it that way, is to enact or reevaluate that law. I mean, if anybody knows that if they steal something, if I pick a copy of someone's book and I go to China and I bring in books worth about 50 million naira, and I know I'm only going to pay 100 naira on the copies you find. Of course, you may not even get to my warehouse. If probably you found maybe 10,000 copies in my shop,
Yeah.
I know I'm only going to pay 100 naira, and
That's chicken feed
of
compared
course.
to the amount you.
I mean, but if something can be done, if there's a proper platform of protection, if there's a proper platform of distribution, you know, if there's an enabling environment, I'm sure even they will be discouraged.
I know the Nigeria Copyright Commission these days, I know they are really out.
Yeah. Mr. John
new
Asen
DG,
has been
and
very,
all that.
very wonderful.
I think you guys need to really collaborate.
Sure.
Authors, publishers,
Exactly.
you know, get together and deal with this issue because
Exactly.
it's denying a lot of writers, a lot of authors, a lot of
Exactly.
publishers,
Exactly.
and the country as a whole.
Of course.
You know, so much income and revenue.
You know, another angle we're not looking at is the fact that this would keep on encouraging brain drain. Because recently I was speaking with somebody at UBEC, and the person said there's a need for picture books. Now, Nigeria doesn't really have picture books for ECCD pupils. That's the early childhood education pupils, pupils from ages 0 to 5. And, you know, I kept looking around for books for such category.
Yeah.
It wasn't available except the foreign books. Now, they needed local content and all that. You know, I wanted to take up that project. Yeah. And, you know, I was afraid. You know, it's like before you take a step, you're scared.
Yeah, because they're not sure.
Yeah, and so the spiraling effect.
So much.
It deprives the country of good writers.
Good writers, yeah.
And then, you know, people just want to look for something else to do because, I mean, you don't want to keep on laboring for others to enjoy.
I don't know, Aria, I don't know whether to encourage you to, you know, hang in there. Easy to say, but, well.
The DG asked me to
hang in there. I have to say it. What else can I just hang in there? I mean, because
apparently
Nigeria, some of us have to keep fighting.
Sure.
You know, despite all the challenges, all the discouragement.
But I'm getting to that point where I'm beginning to choose my battles.
I know, I can see that. I can see that.
I know.
You know, I can see that. Nigeria needs you, you know, and like I said, with the right collaborations, you know, and the right strategies, I think some of these things can be dealt with.
Exactly.
You know. Thank you very much for joining us on Channels Book Club.
Thank you so much, Kole. It's so good to see you again.
It's been great to have you.
I should say Happy New Year to you.
The year
said
is
that.
ended. It's been long, so thank you.
Apparently. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us.
Good to see you. Yeah. Bye.
This is where the show stops today. Once again, senior secondary school students, please take part in the ongoing National Book Review Essay Competition. Check out the webpage on your screen for all the information you need. As always, we'll be delighted to get your feedback through any of our social media platforms. I'm Olakunle Kasumo. Remember, one great book can change your life. Bye-bye.